admissions. The recordings of these sessions are all available and the link to this is provided in the chat box. I major at Ashoka University. Today, I will be your moderator. Thank you so much for joining. Feel free to post any questions you may have in the Q&A box. We'll be taking them up at the end of the session. I am joined today by Ali Imran, the Vice President of External Engagements at Ashoka University. So without further ado, let's get started. Over to you, Ali.
Thank you, Ritika. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's warm and safe wherever they are. In NCR, we're having unseasonal rain, but then as 2020 has shown us, there's really no expectation that can't be unmet. So it's good to see we already have about 145 people. We are expecting close to 300 and maybe more. The structure of the conversation is that I will take you through a bit of a presentation on Ashoka. And then, of course, your questions are welcome, and we are here to answer them. Ritika is a current Ashoka student, and there are many things that she will be able to tell you much better than even I can. Please type your questions in the Q&A box. It keeps things streamlined for everybody. So please do not put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A box, and we will answer them one by one. We may, of course, group them depending on the themes. Okay. So thank you for being here, everyone. This is a conversation about Ashoka, and I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll take it from there. By the way, what you can see behind me is a view of the campus, which is where you will be as and when you join Ashoka. Unfortunately, right now, obviously, we're closed, but that hopefully will change soon. I'm assuming that since you're here, you know a bit about Ashoka, but we will still start just from the basics. So Ashoka is a liberal education university. What liberal education means, it's something that's become clearer over the last 6 years since we started in 2014. I will just run you through it quickly for you to understand. The first is you have freedom to choose what you want to study. So in a sense, you could design your own curriculum, and we have more than 200 to 300 combinations to choose from. The second is it's a study not just of one thing, but of many things. So when you hear liberal arts, do not think that it excludes the sciences. The sciences were a part of the arts at the time of the ancient Greeks, and they still continue to be, because without understanding one, you cannot understand the other. We have an interdisciplinary approach. So you will learn how different disciplines and different subjects connect to each other. And in a world like today's, that is invaluable, because the fact is no problem can be solved by understanding just one discipline. We allow both breadth and depth. So while most of you, and all of you in fact, will state your preferred major, you will do a common set of courses irrespective of what that major might be. And those courses will be common to all students. And that is the breadth of a liberal education. And then you will go deep into your chosen major. So in a sense, it's a T-shape that the Ashoka student really acquires. Very important skills for the 21st century, including critical thinking, problem solving, communication, and social awareness are the focus of a liberal education. And that's something that will run across whichever major you study. So that when you emerge from Ashoka, you are actually able to engage with that topic and explain to other people what that topic means in a very different way from someone who just studied a pure major in a different university. What makes Ashoka unique could actually take pretty much the whole day, and I'll be willing to talk about it the whole day, but I would just like to summarize it briefly for you. As I said, you will get to explore before you choose. We come from an education system, all of us, and I am very much a part of it, except for maybe one or two boards where that's not the case, where you are forced to choose a stream much before you're ready for it. And very often that stream is the outcome of what you think, what your parents think, what your family thinks, what has good employment prospects, etc. In Ashoka, we aim to remedy that, like I said. So in the first year, you will merely explore if you're interested in something other than what you already took in your 11th and 12th. and only then will you choose. So it gives you a lot of freedom. The second, and this is a guarantee that I think Ashoka can give better than any other university, you will learn from the best faculty in this country. And most of them, I would say, are among the best in the world at what they do. Definitely look beyond rote learning. All of us are accustomed to a system where you memorize. I mean, I have a son who's in class 12 who's going to take his exams in a few months. It's about memorizing what's written on the page to the extent that a lot of things are cut out and you're not even supposed to look at them. Just memorizing what's on the page and reproducing it in the words which are there in the book, because without that, you lose marks. That is not the way an Ashoka education works. So in a sense, you will learn how to learn, which is a bigger skill even than technical skills, because this will serve you through the many careers you will have when you start working. Sorry, just give me a second. Yeah. Very important point. This is a world-class education. It's being imparted here in India, and it's affordable. It's something that you will make sure of. So the admissions process and the financial aid process are actually different from each other, disconnected from each other. We will make you the offer first of admission, and only then will we look at your capability to pay. And if we find that there is an issue and that you have a problem in paying, the university will make sure that you can come to Ashoka once we've selected you. So very important point. Look at much more than your grades. This is not a cutoff based admissions process. We will look at your grades, of course, but we will also look at extracurricular activities, what your interests are, who you are as a person, what your peers think of you, what your letter of recommendation says. So it's the complete person that we're going to look at, and you can be sure of that. So no one thing in our admissions process can get you in or get you out. So do not worry about, oh, well, I have low marks than the others who are in my peer group, so maybe I won't get in. Or, well, I'm floating because I have 99% marks. Neither of those is going to be enough to get you in or get you out. We are interested in the whole student, the whole person. This will be a very diverse and vibrant class. Our last year's batch, which came in around the middle of 2020, around August, we have more than 300 schools from more than 100 cities represented. You will meet people that you will never have met in your life, all of whom are interesting and intelligent in their own way. And the belief is that in a liberal education, what is learned in the classroom is only part of what you learn. You also learn at least 50% of what you're going to learn outside the classroom, from your peers, from group projects, from interactions, from discussions late into the night on topics and on issues. India's best have contributed to Ashoka. If you go through our list of, which I hope you have, if you go through our list of founders, you will find that these are some of India's best philanthropists and entrepreneurs who got together to build this university. And this is a university for the ages. And that's the belief that this is a university India needed. And that's why they all got together to do this. And lastly, we believe that, as I said earlier, this is your launchpad to become a leader, because you will learn how to learn. You will learn how to communicate. You will learn how to speak. You will learn how to write. You will learn how to join the dots. And you will learn how to look at things from a 360-degree perspective, all of which are skills which carry across industries and across fields. So irrespective of what you choose to graduate in, these skills will accompany you when you leave Ashoka and go out into the world. The undergrad program at Ashoka is, as I've already said, a set of foundation courses which are common to all the students, a set of major and minor courses which will make up the bulk of your program at Ashoka, and co-curricular courses, which are, as I will talk to you in a minute about, things that students have not got a chance to explore before in their education because of the nature of our boards and of our education system, which hasn't changed for a very long time. This is a 3-year degree. So these are 6 semesters that you will do over 3 years. The degree that you will get is BA Honors or BSc Honors. And this is a UGC compliant degree. However, Ashoka was actually conceived as a 4-year program, much like in the US. And we strongly encourage students to come back for a 4th year after they have graduated with their 3-year degree. What that allows them to do is to actually complete, in a sense, what an education in the liberal arts and sciences should be. So you could come back and do a project, you could do a dissertation, you could do on-ground research, you could do additional courses and acquire an additional major. So there are many options available for you to, in a sense, round off the education that you got at Ashoka. If people want to apply abroad, particularly to the US, it is an advantage because there they look at a 12 plus 4 arrangement as the ideal one when a student applies for postgrad. So this is also helpful in that sense. The new education policy, which came out in August 2020, has actually suggested, much on the lines of what we have been trying to do, a 4-year curriculum for colleges and a multidisciplinary approach. So in a sense, we are ahead of the curve on that aspect. These are the foundation courses that I mentioned to you. There are 9 of them, and they're all compulsory. And they will expand your mind in a way that your last 2 years have not been able to. When we interview students, we realize that they have all been pushed into corners in terms of what they should be doing, and they are absolutely unaware of many of the things which are going on around them, purely because their focus is entirely on memorizing what's in the book. So quantitative thinking is basically mathematical thinking. So for people who are not familiar with maths, this is a way to familiarize them again. Maths is very much a part of many of the disciplines today, even if they used to be arts disciplines earlier. Principles of science, which is about scientific thinking. Indian civilizations, you will be surprised by what you will discover here. Indian civilizations are much beyond wide roads and drainage systems, which most of our history books talk about as the kings, for the kings having done. This is going to explore Indian civilizations in a very different way. Mind and behavior is about psychology. Environmental studies today is an indispensable course because irrespective of which career you pursue, the environment is going to play a big role in whatever decisions you make. Literature in the world, introduction to critical thinking, which is key actually to a liberal education, economics, politics, and society, and great books. So these are the courses that all students will do, as I said, irrespective of their major. In terms of the actual list of majors, minors, and co-curriculars, you can see the pure majors on the left side in the first column. The list of majors of majors consists of 5 science courses. So there's computer science, biology, chemistry, physics, and psychology, and 7 what used to be called the humanities courses. You also have a pre-grouped set of majors that you can choose from. These are majors which kind of belong together. So you could do computer science and entrepreneurial leadership. You could do maths and computer science. You could do English and creative writing. You could do economics and finance. You could do economics and history, and so on. So in a sense, the list of majors is the first 2 columns. You can also choose to take any of the majors as a minor. So you could take theoretically even history with a computer science minor, or the other way around. In terms of specific minors, the options that you have are entrepreneurship, environmental studies, international relations, media studies, visual arts, performing arts, and creative writing. Like I said, these are areas that students have not been allowed to explore because of the pressure of studies. And these are areas that the students are very, very interested in when they come on campus. Let's talk about a very important aspect of faculty. And there, Ashoka is actually the most differentiated university in the country. Perhaps, and I could go out on a limb and say this is the best faculty in the country. And we have more than 135 full-time and 46 visiting faculty members. These are just some randomly selected names, but you can see that these are people who have studied at and have taught at the world's best institutions. And they have chosen to commit to Ashoka because this is a cause that they believe in. And this is the education that they believe India needs. And they've joined us after leaving many world-class universities. The 4th year, as I've already mentioned, gives you many options to round off your education at Ashoka. So you could have an advanced major, like I said, you could convert a minor into a second major, because if you want to do a double major in 3 years, that will not happen. But if you spend the 4th year, you could complete enough courses to do a 4th major. You could do a research and thesis, you could be a teaching assistant, and so on. In terms of summer and semester abroad, Ashoka has partnerships with many prestigious universities. Some of our students who have gone abroad over the last few years, you can see they've gone to Yale, to King's in London, to Columbia, to UPenn, to HEC Paris, which is actually a business school with whom we as a liberal arts and sciences education have a partnership. LSE, Wellesley, and there are many more. These are just some examples of the options which open up for you when you join Ashoka because of our partnerships with foreign universities, which are, as you can see, some of the best names in the world. So UPenn, Yale, Berkeley, Wellesley, HEC Paris, Duke, King's London, Trinity Dublin, Sheffield, Tel Aviv University, the Stanford Center for South Asia, University of Izu, Victoria University, Wellington, Carleton, Sciences Po Paris, UMich, and Lehigh. And with these universities, we have agreements which range across faculty and student exchange to research partnerships and many other aspects. Very important for you to know, and I think you all know this, but just to repeat, the admissions process is beyond cutoffs. We do not look only at marks. We will look at your application. There is an online application process. I think most of you would be undergoing that right now. The application includes your academic scores, your SAT or ACT scores in case you've taken those third-party tests, your personal essays. There are 3 questions that you have to answer, your recommendation letter, and your non-academic engagements, leadership activities, extracurricular activities, and any other interests that you may have invested in so far. We also have a mandatory Ashoka aptitude assessment for all students. This test will be administered a few days after the end of each round deadline. So after round 1, we already had 1 of these tests. The next one will be administered in January. And we have an on-the-spot essay in which you're given a prompt and you have to answer the questions in half an hour. And the question, actually, not questions. The reason for that is that the online essay, as we know, is looked at by many people over a period of time. It's looked at by you, it's looked at by your parents. Very often it is looked at by an outside person. Sometimes people are even using guides or counselors to help them fill it. The on-the-spot essay allows us to gauge how you think on the spot. And that's very key for us to know you. Stage 2, if you get shortlisted for an interview, this is a mandatory stage. The interview, I must repeat for those of you, and I think most of you are undergoing this, for those of you who are tense, please do not be tense. The interview is just a way for us to get to know you more as a person, apart from what you wrote in the application. Also gives you a chance to talk about yourself and gives us both a chance to know each other in a sense. So it is more of an interaction than an interview. And like I said earlier, no one thing will get you in or get you out. So an interview by itself will not get you in. An interview by itself will not get you out of the process. So please relax, just be yourself is my advice to each and every student who comes for an interview. Stage 3 will be the admissions decision. Admissions decisions are of a few types, as you can see on the stage, on the screen. A confirmed offer, which is a straight, clean offer based on the application that you submitted. And if you have either the SAT or the ACT, and you will have the Ashoka aptitude assessment, so we can make you a clean offer. There could also be a conditional offer, which is if you match the board marks that you have stated in your application, you will get an offer once those board marks are final. There is a wait list, which will depend on the availability of seats after a certain stage. There is a deferral of decision where we don't have enough information yet to make a decision about you. And lastly, unfortunately, there will be a denial of admission because the number of applications is now so large that there is no way that we can give admission to each and every applicant. And obviously, you will understand that. At stage 4, like I said, there is financial aid, a process which is completely different from admissions. But once we made you an offer, we will make sure that we help you to get the financial aid you need in case you need it. The admissions timeline, we've already finished 1 round. We are expecting to issue the decisions in the period 8th to 13th January. I think it'll be closer to 13th January though. The deadline for the second round is the 11th of January. I suspect most of you are working on the application with that deadline. So good luck with that, but just keep it in mind. For this, the Ashoka assessment will happen. Ashoka aptitude assessment will happen on the 24th of January. And they expect to notify the results between the 5th and the 10th of March. Round 3, as of now, round 3 and 4, we will decide on the dates. These are the dates that we had decided just before the announcement, which came out on the 31st of December about the CBSE exams. So we will see. But as of now, these are the dates, and please do take them as serious dates. Application submission dates are April 7th and May 23rd. The advantage, obviously, is that even if your board exams are happening after this, we are in a position to make you an offer because we are already taking the Ashoka aptitude assessment along with your entire application and your interview. So we don't necessarily have to wait for your board exams. In terms of fees and financial aid, again, a very important consideration for parents. Our fees, including tuition and residence, is 9.87 lakhs. Let me repeat again, no student has ever been denied admission at Ashoka, education at Ashoka because of financial constraints. Very generous financial aid program supported by founders. This is world-class education, but it's also affordable to all. In the class which came in August 2020, 42% of the students are in financial aid. There were more than 100 full scholarships, which means they're not paying anything at all. 6.3% of the students had a family income less than 2 lakhs. And 6% of the students, something we are very proud of, are first generation college goers. No one in their family has ever gone to college. And they're getting to acquire a world-class college education right here in India because of the way we have reached out and because of the way our financial aid program is. In terms of campus life, something that all of you obviously are very interested in, perhaps even more than the education, although I should warn you that the education is going to be very rigorous, but campus life is going to be absolutely outstanding. We have fully furnished and AC'd men's and women's residence halls. We have medical assistance for any emergency. We have common lounges equipped with everything that you could need. And we have all the services that students would require on a day-to-day basis, including a laundry, a documentation center, a tuck shop, a bookstore, etc., etc. In terms of activities, no matter what your interests are, there will be a club for it. If there isn't a club for it, you can make your own club. These are all student-driven clubs. They organize their own activities. They go and participate in inter-college competitions. They do extremely well there. So there's a theater society, a history and heritage society, a dance club, a storytelling society, a baking club, a Broadway club, etc., etc. So very often students are more interested in these clubs even than they are in the education. In terms of sports and fitness, we have a swimming pool, basketball and badminton courts, squash courts, a gym, a shooting range. We have some international level shooters who are part of the Ashoka student body, cricket, football, basketball, and volleyball facilities. So there's going to be no shortage of sports and fitness arrangements for you. In terms of diversity, the point I was making earlier, overall on the Ashoka, as part of the Ashoka student body, 50% of the students are actually on financial aid. 102, as I said already, are on full scholarships in the last batch which came in. The last three numbers are from the last batch. 6.3% students have less than 2 lakhs of income in the family, and 6% are first generation college goers. If you extend the data across all batches, it will be similar to this. In the class which came in August 2020, it was 561 students from 18 countries, 342 schools from 105 cities. And in terms of gender diversity, 56% women, 43% men, and 1% neutral gender. In terms of outcomes after Ashoka, something that both students and parents obviously want to know. Since 2018, as a whole, we've placed about 560 students. More than 250 plus recruiters come to campus. The median salary for the fourth year batch has been 10.5 lakhs, and the highest salary offered has been 25 lakhs. And these numbers are going up every year as we speak. Some of the organizations which have recruited from Ashoka, divided by sector, you can see banks, you can see consulting firms, tech firms, education and development firms, research and think tanks, media and communication, and digital and startup. So pretty much all sectors are covered. And there is, of course, a group of people who work in the social sector or in CSR who want to work in those sectors. And for them also, obviously, there are many, many opportunities. Higher studies after Ashoka, we've had outstanding results from our students. We have had students being offered postgraduate admission at Oxford, Cambridge, Brown, Cornell, Emory, ISB, Columbia, LSE, NUS, U Chicago, Sciences Po, NYU, and the Graduate Institute Geneva. We've just got our first Rhodes Scholar, an Ashoka student, who's just got a Rhodes Scholarship. So the academic rigor of Ashoka really has resulted in very, very good outcomes in terms of higher education. Round 2 applications are open. I think this is my last slide. The application deadline is 11th of January. You can visit the website, and you should. I would advise you to. You can also call us at the number which is below or contact us at the email ID given there. And obviously, since you're here in this webinar, we are going to answer your questions directly as well. With that, I will end my slideshow. Thank you for being there. I hope you're all listening with a hot cup of tea or coffee. Ritika, I think we can start with the questions now.
Yes, absolutely. Let's move on to some questions regarding the SATs first.
Yeah.
Ashoka earlier had an option where we could be exempted from the Ashokan aptitude test if we had SAT or ACT scores.
Yes.
Why was this policy removed, and how much value will then an SAT or ACT score still add to an individual's application?
So, I mean, that's a valid question. And I think we gave it a lot of thought. There are two aspects that I want to talk about here. The first is that if you've taken the SAT or the ACT, we could make you a firm offer of admission even earlier. Now that we have the third option as well, we will make sure that we take the best of whatever you have done. So by chance, if you have an off day and you don't do well in the Ashoka aptitude assessment, and your SAT performance was better, we will take that into consideration. And the second is that with the sort of suspense which has prevailed about board exams, when they're going to take place, when the result is going to be out, when Delhi University lists will come, etc., etc. This is one way for the student to be sure of getting a firm offer from us, and therefore to be at peace as far as that aspect is concerned. So it's really been a thought-through decision, but it is meant to give you one more option in terms of a performance metric for you to get into Ashoka. And we will take the best of the options. This is our assurance to you.
So then, is the SAT or ACT score required for admissions? And if that is, what is the SAT score range for the admission into the economics course at Ashoka?
So it's not mandatory. It just helps to have it. But since we now have the Ashoka aptitude assessment as a filter, you don't really have to have a SAT or an ACT score, firstly. Secondly, as far as the range is concerned, I don't really want to get into the numbers here, but I could say that I think we have a reasonably high median. But if you've got, let's say, 1400 plus, then it's a decent score. Having said that, I need to clarify the admission is given to the Ashoka undergraduate program. The admission is not being given to the economics course. So it's not like we have separate cutoffs for an economics course or a history course or an English course or a computer science course. The cutoff for admission is the same, irrespective of what your major is, because you have to declare your major finally only after you've finished. I mean, Ritika can tell you more about this, only after you've done the foundation courses. So that basically is as far as the SAT is concerned.
Yes. Would we then consider the best of both marks, the Ashoka aptitude test and SATs?
Yeah. So I mean, that's an option that if you want to exercise that option is there. But like I said, I think we are in a position to actually make you a clean offer much before you get your board exam results. So to that extent, I think you do have an advantage. If we feel that there is something still sort of not quite there in your application, we may make a conditional offer, which is dependent on your board marks. But broadly speaking, once you've taken either the SAT or the ACT or the Ashoka aptitude assessment, you should be in a position to, if you've done well in them and your application is good, you will be in a position to get a firm offer from us.
Somebody asks, can I submit my SAT scores after I've gone through the AAT? I plan to write my SAT in March. Can I take the AAT in January? And then will my March SAT be useful in that case?
So you could do that. The thing is that it delays your decision, and you'll have to then state that upfront that you would like your SAT to be considered. And then having finished the Ashoka aptitude assessment, you would then have to wait till we get your SAT marks. But it's a valid question, and I think we should also think about it as a university whether we want to do that. Most of the time, people have already taken the SAT, except this year 2020 was obviously a bit weird because the SAT didn't happen as scheduled for most of the dates. But I mean, I think it's up to you, honestly. I think if you want us to consider your SAT, then you'll have to tell us upfront that this is what you're looking at.
Right. Moving on to some more questions about boards and grades. Will the third and fourth rounds be held after the CBSE 12th board exams, that is after May and June?
No, so as of now, like I said while I was speaking earlier, we haven't changed any of the dates. The announcement only happened on the 31st, which was just 2 days ago. But I don't think we're going to be shifting our entire process because our term actually starts in August. And if the results are going to come out in July for the CBSE boards, then we cannot be doing our process after July. So
Absolutely.
that's really the idea of having a third party option available to students so they don't have to wait for their board marks.
Yes. Another question here says that grade 11 is an internal school exam here. Due to medical reasons, we were given oral exams instead, and I have a pass certificate along with a recommendation letter from school. Will that be sufficient instead of grades?
Right. So I think, like I said, no one aspect is. I think, yeah, I couldn't hear. Did you ask me something? Because you got frozen for a second.
No, I'm sorry. I think that was a network lag. Please
Yeah,
go.
so class 11 is one input, yes. But we do understand, and we've seen enough, we've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of applications every year. We know that class 11 usually represents a dip anyway from what a person has done in class 10th and what they're going to do in class 12th. I'm not suggesting that that's the right thing to do, but it is what happens. So I think it's fine as long as you've taken the class 11th exams and the rest of your application is adding up. I don't think it should be a problem. But I'd be keen to know which school that is, though.
Right. The next question says, while applying, should we put down the grades as what we expect to get for sure, or something that we're expecting to get that is slightly higher than where we are right now? Right.
Well, I mean, in a lot of cases now, we have the grades being given by the school, the predicted grades.
Yes.
If you are going to self-predict, then I would suggest that you stick to what you think is possible rather than what you may achieve if everything goes well and if life is glorious and wonderful. So just be, honestly, I think the key in this application is to be as true to yourself and as true to what you're capable of as possible. Please do not overstate. Definitely do not understate, but do not overstate. Because the fact is, if you're going to overstate and then you fall short by a huge margin, that's not a good thing either, right? From any point of view. So just put what you think you're capable of based on what you've done till now. And as I said, in a lot of cases, the school is actually doing it in terms of prediction.
Yes. Do we have a school grade cutoff?
No. Having said that, I mean, I would worry if I had 40 or 50%, but that I think honestly nobody does. So no, we don't. I mean, we look at a holistic application. We don't look only at we don't reject based on that kind of cutoff.
Somebody says, I have not appeared for my 12th grade exams and my school refuses to give a predicted score document. What can I do now?
Well, I think you'll have to self-predict them. But again, I don't know why the school would refuse. Um, that's a bit strange, but you can self-predict. You can.
Yes.
Again, I think if you got 60% in your class 10th and you're predicting 100% in class 12th, then you better achieve it. So
Moving on to some questions about majors and minors at Ashoka. You
yeah,
talked about exploring before you choose a major.
yeah.
How does one explore?
Well, you are given an opportunity to do this set of courses, which cover the entire gamut of a liberal education. In fact, Ritika, you're better qualified than me to answer that question. So maybe you should tell them what this exploration actually means.
Right. So before you're allowed to declare your major, you have 3 semesters, right, out of the 6 that you study at Ashoka for your 3 years undergraduate. In this, you're doing a lot of courses, right? And these are foundation courses and other courses from other departments you might be interested in. You're allowed to pick from a varied basket. And as you do that, you can see what you're interested in, where your future prospects might lie. And this has nothing to do with the stream you chose in 12th grade, or what you thought of as what would be more employable or something with more placement prospects. Nothing to do with that. Once you've done all of that in your 3rd semester, then you can sit and decide what major you want to do. So you have quite a lot of time with subjects you might not even have heard of during your school time. before you get to declare. So ample time to explore.
Yeah, and we do find that students who came in with a very clear thought about, oh, I want to do computer science, or I want to do English, ending up doing something completely different. And also, uh, as I was saying earlier, and Ritika perhaps would have experienced that, you can combine, right? You can take
Yes,
a major,
absolutely.
you could still take the subject that you wanted to do as a major, but you give an option of a minor which you would never have thought of doing earlier. So
Yes.
that again is something that the curriculum allows you to do.
And even take courses that have nothing to do with your major or your
Yeah,
decided
yeah,
minor.
absolutely. Yeah.
You can do whatever interests
So
you.
yeah, in a sense, it's a chance to make of yourself what so far you have not been allowed to, or because
Absolutely.
of the system, right?
Mhm.
So it's really up to you.
Uh, I'm a humanities student with psychology and entrepreneurship as my additional subjects. I am planning for psychology as my major and forensic sciences as my minor. Do we have forensic science at Ashoka?
No, no, we don't. We have, uh, I don't know what you mean by forensics, unless you mean in the area of detective work. Unless if you've been it in the area of accounts and finance, we do have an economics major, and we have an economics and finance combined interdisciplinary major, but we do not have a forensic sciences minor or major.
Do you offer political science and psychology in your university in liberal
Yes,
arts?
of course. Yes, of course. In fact, we have terrific faculty, and some amazing work is being done in both those areas by students as well. So, in fact, that's something I should have mentioned earlier. I think in terms of research participation, probably in Ashoka, among very few universities in India, you'll get a chance to work on live actual research that your faculty is doing. And we've had examples of students whose names appeared on the research paper along with the faculty. Quite unheard of at the undergraduate level in most universities.
Yes. Uh, how is Ashoka beneficial for somebody aspiring for UPSC or the civil services?
Oh, very much so. I think, in fact, given that in the UPSC you are actually meant to have a sweeping understanding of many, many disciplines and many issues, um, and also of India. I mean, I think in terms of the rigor, in terms of the way subjects are arranged, in terms of how disciplines interact with each other, in terms of the diversity you will experience and therefore learn about different aspects of India, I think it's a great, great, preparation ground for the civil services. Many of our students do go on to prepare, by the way.
Yes.
And if you look at our postgraduate program, which is the one-year program, many of the students actually have gone on. We have many people who are already in the civil services.
Somebody talks about a double major. Can they opt for a double major?
So, per se, the interdisciplinary majors are the closest thing that we have to a double major, right? So, in 3 years, given the structure that Ritika talked to you about just now, where you're going to spend some amount of time exploring, in 3 years, it is not possible to do a double major. The interdisciplinary majors are designed in a way that they have a natural synergy, and so in a sense, you could consider that a double major. But if you want to do a subject which is not part of those arrangements, then it's best that you do a fourth year and do enough courses then to make it up to two majors instead of one. In 3 years, you will not be able to do a double major because there's just too much work.
Another psychology question.
Yeah.
What is the recommended interdisciplinary major for psychology?
Um, I'm not sure how to answer that, Ritika. You want to try that? Because it depends really what you want to do, right? I mean,
Right, absolutely.
depends what your purpose is. But in terms of pre-designed options, I don't think we have too much really available there. You
Right.
could do a psychology major and a minor in something, or you could then, as I was saying just now, you could then, when you come back for the fourth year,
Yes.
have enough stuff done in a minor, which you can then convert into a major. But interdisciplinary, I'm not sure we have uh, a combined major with anything.
Not yet, we don't, but we have a lot of students who are interested in biology and psychology at the same
Yes,
time,
yes. So that,
or
yeah, so that could
sociology
be
and
the one. But
psychology.
right now we don't have that. Yeah, you're right. In
Yes.
fact, I've interviewed a few students for this year's batch who talk about this combination, which
Yes.
is coming up.
Um, I'm a commerce student in 11th grade at present. I've not taken maths. Can I pursue for Ashoka in 2022? Do you have any options for me?
Um, okay, firstly, I'm very fascinated by the fact that you're doing commerce without maths. But I think the answer to that is it depends what you want to pursue at Ashoka. There are some courses for which having maths is unfortunately mandatory. For example, any course with economics, whether it is economics per se or any of the interdisciplinary majors with economics or even PPE, which is politics, philosophy, and economics, you will need maths. Any science course, really, computer science, physics. By the way, now even for psychology, increasingly, maths is becoming very important. So while there is a thought process on how to bridge this, but as of now, I don't think we have that option available for some of the courses. Some of the courses, obviously, you can.
Yes, but there is no hard and fast rule, and we do have courses that can make up for this. For example, we have introductory calculus courses or linear algebra and other things that you can make up for if you really are bent on a major, that is math intensive.
Yeah, but I just want to clarify, if you're saying commerce, the degrees that we give are BA and BSc. So there's no BCom degree at Ashoka.
Yes.
We have an economics major, we have an economics and finance interdisciplinary major, we have some combinations available with economics. There is no commerce degree per se.
Uh, I want to pursue physics as my major and computer science and maths as minors. Is it possible at Ashoka?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether you want to answer that, Ritika, but
Uh,
basically you can take one subject as a major and one as a minor.
one
I'm
as
not
a
so
minor.
sure.
It would be very ambitious to
You will not be able to, yeah, you can't do two
you
minors.
might be able to complete 2 minors. That would not be possible in 3 years, um,
Yeah,
especially with a intensive major such as physics.
yeah.
Um, hey, is Ashoka good in computer sciences as it is in its liberal streams? What would be the CS batch size?
So, when we first opened in 2014, I think to most people it was not clear what the liberal arts meant. And now, as time has passed, it's become much clearer that we offer much more than just what used to be called the arts. And the computer science department was actually the first science discipline department that we opened. We've just got a part, so we've had some good placements from there. Obviously, as a proportion of the batch, which is the question you're asking, that number is going up every year. This year, for example, we have a lot of applications for computer science. We've recently signed up with Emphasis, which is a well-known IT company. They're going to have a lab on campus where a lot of original research is going to take place, getting together a good bunch of faculty from some of the best institutes in the world. So, computer science is a very serious agenda at Ashoka. And I think for most people, it comes as a surprise because they think of it as also it's an arts university. But the sciences per se, and computer science in particular, is actually a huge agenda because, in a sense, in what is normally called the humanities, we already have a very strong practice and credentials, and therefore there is overinvestment in the sciences at this point. And you will see some remarkable things coming out of Ashoka in the next 3-4 years in terms of the output that these departments produce.
Right. A very important question from a parent on the same lines.
Yeah,
They say Ashoka is touted as a new age university that promotes liberal arts education. My daughter is applying for the UG program in chemistry. My
right.
dilemma is about the focus, attention, and investments that Ashoka makes or provides for the sciences, given the heavy tilt towards liberal arts.
So that's actually the point I was trying to make earlier, just now in the previous question. The emphasis on the sciences is actually massive. First of all, second of all, the two will work in tandem. So it's not as if the same faculty is going to focus on arts and the same faculty is going to focus on the sciences, right? So you're building each department independently, and for each of the departments you have very serious pursuit of both academics and research, uh, whether it's chemistry, whether it's biology, whether it's computer science, whether it's physics. For each of them we have very eminent and distinguished faculty coming from very well-known institutions, including the IITs, including ICER, and so on, including IISc. And they're all coming to Ashoka. They have come to Ashoka, most of them, because of the seriousness of purpose. Because this is a question they would have asked themselves before they joined Ashoka. Why should I leave my established position, which I've built over a lifetime in a very well-known institution, to come to an institution which, as you say, many people think is an arts institution. They've chosen to do that because the opportunity to do good stuff is much more at Ashoka. To do original stuff, to move fast, and to actually move to make an impact in the areas where they want to make an impact. So I think in terms of students who want to come to the sciences, this is actually the place to be rather than be a faceless person out of thousands. Here you actually get a chance to participate in original research, which is the point I was making earlier, and you also get a chance to do new age stuff, you know, to do absolutely new age stuff. I think it's a massive opportunity and a huge agenda for Ashoka.
Absolutely, that's very true because when I joined, there were no biology graduates as well, right?
That's right.
So my parents were really worried if truly we were as focused in the sciences as liberal arts. And let me tell you, this is one edge, one unspoken edge that we have over the liberal arts students, because we're such a small batch, such a small size. Yet the faculty is the same. We have the same number of professors, but focused on these very little students, it becomes an edge that you might not get it. ISERs and IISCs and IITs and wherever else you might want to be. This is something that is going to benefit you largely over the next 2-3 years that you are here. But please don't be worried about the focus at all. No.
Yeah, and also I think Ritika, the proportion of the batch is actually going to go up significantly. I should tell you that.
It already has, yes.
So
There's
you,
a
so you're
size.
lucky in that sense that So it's going to be a major practice. The sciences in Ashoka is going to be a huge story from starting from now till the next 5 years.
Right. Now we have some general questions about our degrees.
Yeah.
Is the degree formally accepted by other organizations in the government?
Absolutely.
Formal education degree?
It's a UGC, yes, absolutely. It's a UGC recognized degree. So many of our students apply abroad and get offers from abroad, which they would not if we were not a fully accredited and well-known institution there.
Yes. Will the academic year be delayed this year due to the current pandemic situation? If yes, can you provide a tentative date for the commencement of the academic year?
No, there's no such plan. Look, the fact is that no one can actually predict what goes on in the era of the pandemic. But even last year, we actually did not shift any date by even one day for existing students and for the incoming batch which came in August. So as of now, there is no plan to disrupt the academic schedule.
Yes, in fact, there's been a very smooth transition to the online platform. And
it was pretty seamless, actually. 16th of March, we were online. 13th of March is when the pandemic actually converted into a lockdown kind of situation, but we were ready.
Yes. Right. Oh, we have a young student from grade 9. They study in IGCSE school. They have 3 questions. The first, what challenges do you think that future college students about 10 years from now, after COVID, will be facing after graduating? How can a future Ashoka candidate prepare for, to face these challenges, prepare the students in such a way? And similarly, what are the mindset and tools or abilities that are needed for these Ashokan students to be future leaders?
So this could take me the whole day to take you through, but let me attempt an answer. First of all, I think what's going to happen after the pandemic, some of it is already clear because we've lived through a year of it. And so working virtually and addressing issues which are larger than they first seem is going to be key. And what could prepare you better than a liberal education, especially the one at Ashoka? So COVID, for example, just if you look at the vaccine, which is occupying all our minds right now, developing the vaccine is only one part of solving this problem, right? So the vaccine companies done a fantastic job. Obviously, we'll find out how effective it is once we all get it. But that's just the medical part. There's also a distribution aspect. There's an economics aspect to it. There's a political aspect to it. There's a sociological aspect to it. There's a communication aspect to it. How are you going to convince everyone to take the vaccine when so many of them are not sure and don't trust it? And you need to know how these things interact with each other. It's one thing to say a government must vaccinate everybody at its own cost. It's another to know what that's going to cost. So where's that money going to come from? So all these aspects are something that you can only learn when you've had cross-disciplinary exposure. Okay. And the most important skill, which I mentioned earlier, which I don't know whether you heard, whether you were there in the first part of the conversation, is that you will learn how to learn and you will learn how to think. And so, irrespective of which area you're going to go into, whether you're going to be a civil servant or a game designer or a social worker or a consultant or an IT professional, the ability to learn and relearn is something which is going to stand you in good stead at a time when nothing is certain. No one knows what's going to be the picture of the world after 10 years. But because you would have learned how to function amid uncertainty and how to link things with each other which are not visible at first glance, you would actually have an advantage over others who've had a straight line kind of thinking. So, while the new education policy has said all universities must become multidisciplinary, that's like saying tomorrow the sun should come out from the south, right? So, it's going to take a while for the entire system to catch up. Whereas we, because we were constructed and built with the view of doing exactly this, have a long lead. And because we have the best faculty and because we have the most diverse student body, uh, I think the advantage you will get is actually tremendous in terms of being able to deal with the post-COVID reality, is my view, right? Ritika, I don't know if you agree, but
Oh no, absolutely. That is why we talked about the whole need for foundation courses and for you to explore before choosing, because 18, 20 is when your brain is still plastic, when you can still learn. So
that's
absolutely,
right.
please get to know all perspectives and think in ways that you couldn't think of earlier. And that is all you need to do when you get out of Ashoka anyway. You don't need that one bachelor's degree to help
Yeah.
you in life 10 years from your bachelor's degree. It is what you will learn and then how you have learned that will really carry you forward.
Some of the people that we all admire, and whenever I ask this question, you will get Steve Jobs, for example, and nowadays you'll get Elon Musk, and many other such people. They all have an element of the liberal education curriculum in the education that they got, right? So Musk is actually is a physics and economics major. Uh, Steve Jobs obviously was Steve Jobs, but he also attended liberal arts for a while before no college could hold him, so he dropped out. But the beauty of what Apple is today, and many people I suspect Apple users in this group, is the graphic identity of it, and that's because Jobs had exposure both to the liberal arts and to calligraphy, which was a love of his. Uh, so the value of having learned in this way is very different from having learned in a rigid curriculum, where you don't get to define for yourself the areas in which you're interested. But I think we could, like I said, we could go on and on. So let's go on to the next question.
Yes. The next question says, Ashoka is a best fit for me. How can I be the best fit for Ashoka?
Look, I think one of the things that we always say, and I have said this to many, many, many students over the last few years, is you have to be yourself in in whatever you represent to us. Please do not try to be somebody else. Do not think of it as an exercise in projection, because we are looking at the whole person, and we will know if something is not consistent. Let me assure you. We have experience now over the last 6 years of bringing in students from all kinds of backgrounds. So we know when someone is not being himself or herself. So if you believe that Ashoka is the best for you, firstly, you should be able to tell us why. Okay. And the second is that you, you yourself as a combination of qualities, experience, thoughts, values, is what we are looking at. And if we find that it matches with what we're looking at, if you're a curious person, if you're someone who has done some other things apart from education, although education is very, very key, but if you've done something else, uh, there is no reason why you will not make it, right? In fact, that's why we interview. Otherwise, we could just have a cutoff based process. So the interview is definitely one part of what we look at. So I wouldn't worry too much about how you can be the best for Ashoka. There is no one, like in the 560 kids who came in August 2020. It's not like they conform to any kind of mold. There's no cookie cutter approach that we use to take students. As long as you're able to match what we're looking for, and if you're so convinced about why Ashoka is the best for you, then I think you will know what we're looking for. So I would just present the best of me to Ashoka, and the rest of it I wouldn't really worry about. I don't know what you think, Kritika, because you were obviously chosen. So you may
Well,
have a sense of why you were chosen.
talking about cookie cutters and molds or the type of students, Students that feel that most universities currently, especially in India, they don't belong to, are the ones that are chosen for Ashoka, right? The ones that feel that cookie cutters don't do them justice, or people that have more to offer than there would be to offer,
Yeah,
in usual undergrad degrees that don't focus on, say, interdisciplinary education or liberal
yeah,
arts, or give you the chance to explore at all. You just go into one stream and that is all you're ever allowed to study. The
yeah,
flexibility, the opportunities. In fact, every person you meet at Ashoka, your age, and then even beyond your age, you'll meet a lot of people who've dropped out from other universities and come here.
yes,
People
yes.
so
Very
disappointed
large
in
number.
what they got
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
right? Trust me, there is no mold. There is no one type of student we're looking for. As long as you know that you are a good student and a good person, I don't think why
yeah,
your application wouldn't make it.
yeah.
Moving on to some admission related questions. What's the percentage of admits that are conditional admits? What is the leeway that the school will allow in those cases?
So I can't really give you these numbers, but there is a certain percentage. When you mean leeway, if your question is what if the person doesn't meet it exactly, that's fine. This is not such a hard and fast rule. Obviously, you shouldn't fall short by 5%, but if you fall short a little bit, I think that is perfectly okay. I think if the rest of the application is okay, then we will accommodate. But as far as percentage of it is concerned, I really can't share how many of those are conditional.
Uh, a student says, I'm an American citizen currently living in India. So will I be applying as an international student then?
Oh, well, presumably, if you're an American citizen, you are an international person. Therefore, you would apply as an international student, yes.
Yes. Um, we have a question about round two interview dates. Do we have any tentative dates so far?
So, pretty much as soon as the deadline is over, I think we'll be starting the interviews. So, it's a pretty intense and back-to-back process. So, we use as much time as we can get for the interviews. But we do allow you to choose what time and which date you would like to come for the interview because we know that at this time there is a lot going on in the lives of students. So we give them that freedom or that flexibility.
Yes, absolutely. And when does the financial aid process commence for round two?
After the offers are made. So it'll be after March.
Yes. Uh, how long after the aptitude test will the interview take place?
So the aptitude test happens for everybody on the same day, which is stated in the schedule we put up earlier, 24th of January. The interview could actually even take place before. There's really no connection there, but most of the interviews will take place after that. So that really is as much as I can tell you right now, because as I said, you can choose your own dates within the time period which is allocated.
Yes. We have a question about the Ashoka aptitude test. They ask, what is the type of testing that it covers? Is it purely objective, such as the SAT and the ACT?
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, it's a sort of thinking skills assessment, right? So if you've done any tests of this kind before, that's as much as you will need in terms of preparation. So I would not go all out and take up a course or prepare somewhere, etc. There are some sample questions also which are given on the website, the Ashoka website. It's just a way to test your thinking skills. So if you've ever done any questions involving analytical reasoning or language, it is an objective type test.
Right. And this aptitude test and the interview, they're all online, right?
Yes, everything's online.
Yes. Okay.
So
Um,
interviews, because of the pandemic, uh, from around March, we've been doing the interviews online. We used to do them in person, but this way actually it's been very, very efficient, and we've had, I think, virtually no dropouts at all. People have all turned up for the interviews on time, on the appointed date and day.
right. Does the application need to indicate a major or, an intended major?
Yeah, so we ask you to give your preference, but we don't hold you to it. The point obviously is that if you're extremely keen and if you're extremely convinced that irrespective of what you do in the first in the foundation course period, you will still choose the same major, you're free to talk about it in the interview. But per se, we won't hold you to the fact that, oh, but when you first applied, you said you want to do computer science, but now you want to do history. That's completely your choice. You have agency as far as that is concerned.
In fact, that is quite appreciated. That means you did really explore and look into other fields.
That's correct. The caveat I would put is that in the interaction, which is what we prefer to call the interview, uh, some students think that because they have put their top preference as, let's say, economics, that they must talk about economics a lot, which you're free to do, by the way. But if you're going to talk about something that's specific, then you need to have more knowledge than if you had just taken a general option, right? So if you're saying, I want to talk about economics, then be prepared to talk about economics in the interview. So you can't leave it at, I like macroeconomics, or I like microeconomics, or I have read economics. That's not enough then, right? It's because you've already said, you've put your stake in the ground and said, no, I want to do only economics. I'm not interested in anything else. Then you will be grilled on that, or you'll be questioned on that. But otherwise, we will not hold you to the preference you state when you first apply.
Talking about interviews, who all are in the panel of interviewers?
So we have a fairly large panel. We have members of the admissions committee. We also sometimes have founders and faculty. So it's not always the same group, but it's two people in a panel.
Yes. For deferred offers, can you add any additional mark sheets?
I'm not sure what that means. Additional mark sheets from.
I have no idea. It doesn't state. I think they can go on and add in the Q&A box, and we'll return to this question.
Yeah, if they can just put that there. We'll figure out.
Right. Moving on, I read on your website that the admission will ask about my application during the interview. Is the whole interview, about the Ashoka application, or are there any questions besides my application?
No, so I think like any conversation, like when you talk to your friends, you all don't always talk about one thing, right? You start from somewhere and the conversation goes somewhere else. So as I was just saying, obviously, if in your application, all your questions are about how, you were born to do computer science and your life is all about computer science and you would be the next Elon Musk, then the conversation will be around that. But the application is important in the sense that you must know what you said to us. So if you said that you did a particular activity, let's say in class 10th, which was a co-curricular or a extracurricular activity, then at the very least you should be able to tell us 2 lines about what you did, right? So if you did MUN, or if you did model building, or you did any of the other things which happen in schools, then at least you should be able to tell us what the topic was of the debate in which you came first or second or third, right? So the application will definitely be a part of the conversation, but there will be other things also which will emerge as the interaction takes place, based on what you say, based on what we say, based on the book or the movie that you say you liked, or you just saw, based on what's going on around you, right? So right now, for example, most of the students memorize a few things about the farmer agitation and come, right? And then we know whether to ask them about it or not, depending on what they say. So the application will form a key part of the conversation, but there will be a lot of other things which will emerge, which will help us to know you, and which will also help you to know us in a sense.
Right, we've talked about this. It is, at the end of the day, a conversation between you and your panel. It is not a grilling. It is not really an interview. It is a conversation that you carry.
Not at all. I mean, we just want you to be comfortable. We want you to be yourself. It's a way for you to project some of the things that may not have been there in the application, which you missed out. It is also a way to further explain some of the things that you want. It is a way for us to ask you a few things about yourself, about your life, your views. But that's about it. The intent is never ever to cause discomfort or to probe things that the student doesn't want probed, right?
Talking about the application process, this year's exams have gotten delayed. So is there any flexibility in the process?
So like I said earlier in the conversation, as of now, we haven't changed any dates. But if there is any, obviously we will communicate. But as of now, the process is continuing the way it was meant to.
Yes. Can you apply twice if you get rejected in the first or the second round of it?
You can apply only once in a year. And do not try to make another email ID and apply, because anyway we know that it's you. So you can only apply once in a year.
Yes. And would it be better then to apply in round 3 and 4 with the board marks than with the predicted in round 1 and 2?
No, I mean, that's your call, right? But because we are giving you the option of another assessment, which is the Ashoka assessment, you actually have a chance to get an offer even before you get your board marks. So
Right, there is no need to
it's
wait.
entirely your call.
Yes. When are the results for round 1 expected?
So like I said earlier, 8th to 12th, 8th to 13th is the window. But I think around 13th is when we'll probably be announcing them.
And can applicants know about their AAT scores and the feedback about their essay?
No, we don't. We don't share,
Right.
because you see that is an endless tunnel, and I don't think any university would really share that.
We have a student asking, what are the traits that you look for in a college student?
Well, I can tell you the traits that we look for in an Ashoka student. I don't know about a general college student, but so I think Ritika is probably one of those, representatives of the Ashoka student. But we look for curiosity, which means that you need to be interested in things. It does not have to be anything that we want you to be interested in, but you need to be interested in something. Um, Academic rigor is going to be important at Ashoka. So, um, in an era when the reading habit is going down, we find that increasingly the internet and YouTube and apps have become a source of news. But at Ashoka, you will have to apply yourself and do very, very long readings for an individual class. And you will actually have to do the reading. So, even if you're not a reader, which is fine, uh, we need to know that you will be able to apply yourself to the task. And that shows through in many, many ways, not just that you're not actually a reader right now. That can show through in other ways that you've done in your life, other things that you've done in your life. We need to know that you're comfortable with diversity. So we need to uh, get a sense of your worldview, and that we will get from what you submit to us and what you say to us when you meet us. And overall, I think that's basically what I would say. I think you need to be a little self-aware. You need to, uh, you don't always need to have the answer. So let me just say this: you should be comfortable with the fact that you don't know the answer, but that you're willing to find out, right? So, in a system in which you're always encouraged to put the answer down in exact words because you lose marks if you don't, here it's actually the opposite. And if the interviewer is wrong about something, they will freely admit it. And similarly, if you don't know something, then you should be willing to say that, yeah, actually, maybe what I'm saying is not correct. So I think we look at that too. But eventually, all this is just, these are just a few random things I'm saying. I think you need to be yourself and be comfortable with that. And the rest of it, if it adds up with your application and everything that you've written there, I think it should be fine. Honestly, I don't think the interview is meant in any way to gauge anything more than that.
Yes. Moving on to the essay topics in the application. Somebody's asked that the essay topics are not quite clear. Can you please describe specifically what we're expecting from the essays?
So I think they need to know, I mean, they need to tell us what exactly is not clear, because then we can perhaps address it a little better. But essentially, the essay topics are meant for you to think about yourself and think about what is important to you and what experiences have been relevant to you so far. That's basically it. And it does not have to be something earth shatteringly important. It could be just a minor thing which happened at some point. So it's just meant to help you explore yourself, and that's really where it's coming from. But if there's a clarity required on any of the specific questions, then obviously we can provide that. So you can ask that question.
Yes, in fact, the next session that we have, the Q&A session with the admissions team, that is
Yeah,
on 6th
that
Jan
should
at
also,
6
that's right.
p.m. Absolutely, it'll help you out way better, and you can be clearer with your question then.
Yeah.
Do we have a cutoff for the AAT?
Um, well, not really, not like that. Again, I think if the marks were, let's say, 100, and most people got above 50 and you got 20, then that would be worrisome. But if you're around the median and above, then I think you're okay, right? I'm not saying the cutoff is 50. I'm just saying if, because we don't know how people are going to do this year, right? So there's no absolute cutoff like that. But I mean, obviously, if you get only a few questions right out of the bulk of them, then it's not going to be as good as if you had got more of them right.
Yes. Talking about LORs a little bit here, is
Yeah.
a recommendation from a person who's really important in the social sphere um, and one from a teacher, will they be considered in a similar fashion?
Yeah. So the LOR actually is meant to be someone who can testify to at least some of the things that you have put in your application, right? So uh, just because it's someone who's socially important or politically important, that doesn't prove that they know you, right? So the LOR is not meant to be a letter of, I know this person, so please take him or her. The LOR is meant to be, I know a bit at least about, because you spent 12 years in a school, then the teacher or the principal or the counselor or whoever else is testifying to what you did will know some things that you've done. Unless you're a head girl, etc. In which case, obviously, they just testify that you're the head girl or the head boy. But it should be someone who knows you a bit. The social political relevance of that, honestly, zero is my submission to you. You are free to get it from anybody, but don't get a rubber stamp. It should be someone who knows you a little bit.
Um, how does one choose which round to apply in, and what is the difference then between applying in the different rounds of admissions at Ashoka?
So there's no difference. The process is exactly the same. Having said that, I think it's better if you do it early because you will have an early decision with you. Is the way I would look at it. But the very fact that we have more rounds means that you can apply uh, in whichever round you choose to. Our sense is that if you apply earlier, then it's better for you, really.
Yes. The application has a section that requires the 10th class board marks,
Yeah.
and the grade needs to be filled in. So are we asking for the positional grade, as in the mark sheet, or do we convert it to the percentage?
Um, well, you will submit your mark sheet, right? Because 10th boards, you'll have the official mark sheet. So whether it's marks, grades, everything will be on it.
Either works. Yes.
So, I mean, whatever that is what you will submit.
Yes. We have a student that says they did terribly in their class 11th exams, but they have done well in their 10th and 12th.
Yeah, we know that pain and we know what happens there. So I wouldn't worry. In any case, it's not you can change that now. So
Yes.
don't worry about it.
Yes. Okay, we have a homeschooling question. I'm being homeschooled and will be appearing for the NIOS board exams
Yeah.
in February. I've also
Yeah.
written my first SAT last year.
Yeah.
The NIOS 12th board does not provide predicted grades. Does that hinder my application process?
No, I mean, I think we've had NIOS applications before. So you have to give us something that we can go on. But we have had NIOS applications and some kids have done well also. So I wouldn't worry again.
Right,
Look,
we
I
can
think I just
self-prepare.
want to say anxiety is natural. And at a time of the pandemic, I think anxiety has been multiplied. But just fill the application as completely as you can. And wherever there is a limitation, please state the limitation. I think we are supportive and we understand that there are constraints. The constraints have been made worse by the lack of physical access to schools. We understand all that. Okay. But do not fill the application in a sloppy way because then that affects how we perceive your commitment to the process. That's all I would say. So don't worry about, okay, so maybe one thing is not there. I can submit it later. Sure. Just tell us what it is. That doesn't mean you leave out everything. But I'm just saying, you know, please don't worry is my advice to everybody. It's easy for me to say, but I know I have now extensive experience in this area. Just don't worry about anything as long as you fill the application properly and it's saying what you wanted to say about yourself.
Yes. Are there chances to get admitted lesser for gap year students?
No. The question though uh, is when you took a gap year, did you have something in mind apart from the fact that you were just burnt out and wanted a year off? And what did you do in that gap year apart from Netflix and chill? I think is the question that one would ask in the interaction. But no, gap year is not a disqualification at all.
Yes. Can I apply if I don't have my class 11th mark sheet with me at the moment and the school is closed for winter break?
But you'll have something, right? I mean, if you don't have the mark sheet, you'll be able to tell us what marks you got, and you can also then tell us that you'll be able to give us the mark sheet by when.
Absolutely, yes.
I'm curious though about why you would not have the mark sheet, because it would have come by mail, I assume, even though schools did shut down by March, but I know that schools sent it by email, at least a provisional one.
Talking about financial aid a little bit, are there
Yeah.
need-based scholarships available at Ashoka?
Yeah, so the entire financial aid process is need-based actually. So you can call it a scholarship, you can also call it aid. So the offer is made based on merit, and the financial aid offer is made based on the ability to pay. So it is actually entirely need-based.
Yes, and is there any criteria and requirements that one requires for a full scholarship?
So we will ask you for financial documents, which our team will examine, and based on that, then we will determine how much aid you can get. Obviously, as we mentioned earlier, more than 100 kids in the batch which came in were actually on full scholarship. So obviously, their financial circumstances were restricted, and that was recognized when they were given the full scholarship. So, I mean, that's as simple as it can be.
Yes. Then we have some campus life questions.
Yeah.
Do you have a girls' football team? Yes, and a very skilled one
Yes.
at that.
Yes. A very good one. Yes.
Is it mandatory to stay in the hostels?
Yes. Even if you're from Sonipat, you have to stay in the hostel because campus life can only be experienced actually if you stay on campus. And the fact is, as I've said before, this is a very rigorous program in terms of studies. So through the day, you're actually going to be busy with that. So it's really only in the evening that you'll get a chance to engage in all these other activities and which go on late into the night. So campus life is very much staying on campus is very much a part of the Ashoka experience.
Yes. Does Ashoka have field hockey facilities? No, not yet. Is there a
No.
medical clinic or hospital inside
Yes.
the campus? Yes.
Yes. So we have a fairly well-equipped infirmary, which we've actually supplemented during the pandemic. So yes, and there are hospitals which are close by in case anyone really needs to get hospitalized.
Yes.
We
Can we
have ambulance
currently
as well.
visit campus?
Sorry.
Can students currently visit campus given the pandemic?
No, right now I think access is restricted. We do have a virtual tour. Uh, Obviously, not as much fun as going and seeing it for yourself, but we do have a virtual tour which is available. But no, physically right now, no.
Right. Talking about some study abroad programs, are they open for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think the thing with the study abroad program obviously is that you need to meet the criteria of the host university as well, right? So you will need to have a certain CGPA. You will need to have a recommendation from the faculty at at Ashoka, and then there will be a process of selection. But yes, of course, it's open to everyone.
And in which semester are the students eligible for the study abroad programs?
Typically, I don't know, Ritika, you would know, but typically, I think they will not go in the first year because it's too
No.
early.
Yes.
So it's really the second year onwards that they would go
Second
because
and third.
third year they would again get busy with their graduation requirements. So it's the second
Right.
year perhaps is
So it's
the
your
likely.
third, fourth, and fifth semesters that you can choose to
That's it.
study abroad.
That's when you would go. And
Yes.
typically in the summer rather than in
Yes.
the winter, right?
Um, does the campus have housing accommodations, and does the fee include the housing accommodations, or is that to be paid
Yes, of
separately?
course. I mean, so as we just said, uh, staying on the campus is mandatory. Obviously, the pandemic is a different factor, but yes, and the fee includes that.
Uh, a question about the security protocol at Ashoka.
So we have a security agency, and it's a very well secured campus. There are guards. There is a checking in process. There's a checking out process. Uh, there is restricted access for outsiders. And it's extremely secure. And Ritika again can testify to that, I think.
Yes. Uh, and another question that talks about the campus and social life at Ashoka. How is it? Um, way, way
You
more
want to?
indulgent than you would initially think of. Obviously, given that currently we're not on campus, but I don't think there's any one day on campus that is dull. We've talked about clubs, we've talked about societies and events, and
Yeah.
there is always a lot going on. And in fact, you've got to choose which one you want to be indulgent in. But yes, very fun, very
So,
inclusive.
yeah. So in my early years in Ashoka, a graduate student told me, sir, you know, life at Ashoka is like a triangle. One vertex of the triangle is studies. One vertex of the triangle is the social life and the activities. And the third vertex of the triangle is sleep. And at any given time, you can have only two out of the three. So guess which usually does not happen. So,
Yes, in
so I think,
fact, I don't think the campus ever sleeps.
yes,
It's
yes.
more fun in the night, in fact.
Comes alive, yeah, it comes alive in the evening. It's just so much going on. Yeah,
Yes. Uh, right. Moving on to a few questions about the Haryana domicile.
right.
What is the significance of the certificate?
The significance of the certificate is that because we are governed by the Haryana Private Universities Act, uh, there is a certain weightage given to being a Haryana domicile. So, if you are able to give the certificate, which is an actual official proof that you are a Haryana domicile, then you do have, there is a weightage given to that in the process.
Yes. And is there an eligibility criteria or a condition for a Haryana domicile if doing 11th and 12th from Haryana should be
No,
sufficient as
no.
a condition?
So there is an official route through which you have to get it. So there is a website on which you have to go, etc., etc. And I think it's 15 years of residence in Haryana, which is required.
Yes.
And that needs to be certified by the competent authority. So
Yes.
just the school giving a certificate is not enough.
So, should one not have the domicile certificate, can they attach a government document with the Haryana address? Would that work?
No, you need the certificate because as far as the Haryana address is concerned, I think anyone who's living in, let's say, Gurgaon and the children are in the school in Gurgaon will have a Haryana address and they'll be living there. But that's not proof of Haryana domicile.
Yes.
I mean,
Uh,
these are rules, right? So much as we would like to accommodate other ways of recognizing this, these are the rules.
how much impact does the Haryana domicile have on the application? My child is eligible, but we've not yet acquired the certificate. It's a long drawn
So it
process.
so it has a weightage, like I said.
Mhm.
So I mean, if you can get the certificate, good. Do give it to us. I
Yes.
would recommend.
Talking a little bit about placements in higher studies.
Yeah.
What about the alumnus employability status? Can you please provide the details in the website itself?
So I think I just gave it earlier in the PPT as well. We have a full-fledged career development office. We have engagements. We have relationships with more than 500 organizations. Every year we have, let's say, 200 plus organizations which come to campus. So placements has been a good outcome for Ashoka students. And as far as the list of recruiters is concerned, I did share it in the PPT, but I think basically, I think every sector is represented, and some of the best organizations in that sector are represented in the list of recruiters, whether it's banking or consulting or corporate or think tanks or media or any of the other sectors that you can think of. So that's a big focus actually for us. In
Yes.
fact, given that we are, sorry, Ritika, given that we are not uh, a tech or a management university, this is actually even more of a focus area than it would be if you were not a liberal arts and sciences university.
Right. Will I get guidance in my fourth year to work towards my master's abroad?
Yes, absolutely.
And
Because, yeah,
um, it's a continuing question. It says, is Ashoka really helpful for an aspirant who wants to go for a PhD at MIT or Harvard?
yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Depends what help you need, but yes, I think in terms of being advised and in terms of getting support from the faculty, absolutely.
What sector provides opportunities for history students?
So this is interesting. You see, one of the fundamental tenets actually of a liberal education is that while you major in a discipline, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will go on to work in the jobs that were traditionally available to that discipline, right? So for example, this year in the batch which went out in June, um, ATCardi, which is the major consulting firm, hired a philosophy major, right? In 2018, which was the first fourth year batch, McKinsey hired a political science major. So history majors have gone on to not necessarily jobs or sectors which you would think a history major would go into, like doing a PhD or becoming a teacher. They have actually gone on to every kind of job. They've gone into media houses. They've gone into corporate jobs. They've gone into HR jobs. So the fact that you're a history major is accompanied by the fact that you also had cross-functional and cross-disciplinary exposure, right? So if you wish, you can continue and on the path that a normal history major would, but the world is still open to you. It's not as if you can't apply for a corporate job or you can't apply for a social sector job. So I
Absolutely.
think,
It's limiting in no way.
yeah,
Um, right. Our last question is, what are the internship opportunities that are available at Ashoka?
right. So that's a big piece of what we're doing. In fact, in the career development office. So the year which went by, I think we had more than 200 odd people who attended internships, and so we actually have one career fair just for internships. We're going to have two now in the coming year. So, and the idea is to get as many organizations as possible from our target list of recruiters, because if you do a good internship, then you're likely to get a pre-placement offer from that organization. So the opportunities are very good and extensive. In fact, our first offer from Microsoft uh, 2 years ago was a student who'd gone as an intern and then got an offer as a pre-placement offer, one of the highest paid people of that batch.
Yes. One last question from you, Ali. Are there
Yeah.
any last suggestions for students applying in round two that you'd like to give?
Um, well, try to submit it before midnight is my first piece of advice, because at midnight, if the portal is not working, then you'll have stress. Um, be yourself again and again. I say this because honestly, there's no one else that you can be, and there is no one else who can be you. So just what makes you unique is what you need to put across in the application. That's all. And do not worry about, is it good enough? Are my marks high enough? Should I be saying this in order to impress people? It doesn't help. You must say what you actually are, because in any case, if it's not adding up, it's going to be visible to us. And when we meet you, in any case, we will know if the person on the application and the person who's sitting in front of us are the same person. So be yourself, represent yourself truthfully. Do not miss out stuff that you have done, but do not overstate what should not be overstated, right? So if you won, if you played a cricket tournament and your team won in the inter-colony uh, tournament in Delhi, please don't say that you represented India, because then that is not going to hold up, right? So you are a person with 17 or 18 years of life experience. Uh, you're someone who has some thoughts on what they want to do with your life and why Ashoka makes sense in that context. That's all that you need to put. And the rest of it, just leave. Don't worry now about, oh, but if I change that word, does it change the application? Let me tell you, it will not. So, and please don't submit it on the 11th of January at 11:59 p.m. Give yourself some rest and give your parents some rest. When you're ready, please submit it, is my advice. I know you won't take it, but I'm just saying.
Thank you so much, Ali. That was a great session. I'm sure
Thank
this
you.
would have
Rika,
been.
are there any more questions anyone has? Like the person who was saying, I don't know how to, they feel the question is not clear. Remember, they were saying that the essay question is not clear. So I don't know if they. Anyway, you said there's another session, so we can clarify
Right.
that.
We'll take it up on 6th January at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Another Q&A sessions lined up for them. Right.
Right.
I'm sure
Thank
this
you so
was
much, everyone. Thank
really
you. And
helpful. Yes.
Stay safe. Have a happy new year, everyone. Good luck with your applications. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ali. Yes.
Thank you.
Everyone, please take a minute to share your feedback with us. The link to the feedback form is in the chat box. Our next session, like I just said, is the undergraduate webinar series, the Q&A session. It's with the admissions team, and you can clarify any and all doubts that you might have regarding your UG application. Just a second, please. Yes. It is on 6th January at 6 p.m. The registration link to join this session is again in the chat box, like I said. Lastly, I'd like to please inform you that round 2 applications for the UG program are closing on 11th January. You can start your application at apply.ashoka.edu.in. Please visit our website, which is www.ashoka.edu.in for complete details on the entire process and timeline for your admissions. If you have any further queries or you'd like to know more about the unique interdisciplinary undergraduate program at Ashoka, you can write to us at apply@ashoka.edu.in or call on any of the numbers that are on your screen currently. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy New Year again, and take care. Thank you.